Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this new year, God, for this gathering, Lord. We pray, God, that you just continue blessing BlueRidge, and God, we pray that you just bless the citizens. Help us all work together, God. Give us guidance through direction. And Lord, we just thank you for just peace and salvation that runs through us, Lord. We thank you for this new year. We're excited about this new year, God. Like I said, once again, Lord, just help us and guide us in the decision-making process. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I need approval of the December 4th, 2018 emergency meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the December 4th, 2018 emergency council meeting minutes.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor? December 4th, 2018 workshop minutes.
I'll make a motion that we also approve the workshop meeting minutes, which was December 4th, 2018.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? December 11th, 2018 council meeting minutes. I have them. They should be right behind.
I'll make a motion that we approve the council meeting minutes for December 11th, 2018.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay, I need an approval of the agenda, or a motion to amend the agenda. We're not, unless you want to amend it. Do you like the agenda as, to approve it or amend it? You get the option to do either or.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay. Downtown Development Authority board members, their oath of office. So I'll go ahead and ask that all 5 of those board members, which will be Jeff DiPaolo, Cesar Martinez, Gene Holcombe, somebody help me with Nicole Potzoff, and Michelle Moran. If you'll come up front, I think we're going to do them. If y'all don't have any objection, we'll do all of them at one time, and you'll just repeat after me. Yes, you have to take an oath too. Nathan Betts is the other one.
I'm not in the list.
Well, we'll just do it to be safe since our attorney is not here. I was going to do it on the podium there so y'all can turn around for the newspaper. I'm sure she'd like to. I'm sure they'd like to be able, and your family may want to be able to hear me. Okay, can you hear me? Okay. If you will, you'll raise your right hand and you'll repeat after me. So,
Hold on, Jay.
oh, I'm sorry. And Jay Hamilton, he's the other one. You're not leaving somebody else. So Jay, are you okay with doing this as a group effort rather than individually? Caesar had requested to be individual, but we outvoted him. Okay. Okay, so you'll just repeat after me and we'll just go through it. So I, and you each state your name. Raise your right hand. Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear
That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
The Constitution of the State of Georgia.
the Constitution of the State of Georgia,
That I am a person qualified to serve as a director,
that I am a person qualified to serve as a director,
as defined in OCGA 36-42-7.
as defined in OCGA 36-42-7,
That I shall abide by all laws relating to conflict of interest.
that I shall abide by all laws relating to conflict of interest,
And that I will faithfully perform the duties of the office of a director
and that I will faithfully perform the duties of the office of director
of the Downtown Development Authority for the City of BlueRidge, Georgia.
of the Downtown Development Authority for the City of BlueRidge, Georgia,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
And thank you for serving. You might want me to say that again later and very often, and I look forward to you do that. We got a great group. Thank you.
Cesar.
And I think Kelsey will need each of you to sign those and return those to her. Is that correct? Okay. All right. Okay, we'll move on. Cesar, would you come to the, and I turned that off. I'm sorry, I should have left it on.
Hello.
No,
No.
no.
How about now? Okay. Good evening, thank you. I'm Cesar Martinez from Downtown Business Association. Couple of things I wanted to ask or tell the council tonight. The first thing is just if we can get an update on where the parking study is.
We're working toward it. So, well, have we been able to get the information from?
I haven't.
Okay. All right. That's our first step. That's one of our first steps. He's got a lot of information we need.
Okay, once he gives that to you, what are your next steps?
They'll go through the process. We're ready to go. We're just needing some information.
Okay,
We've been using a GoPro for months, I guess, Gene. I don't know how many. Apparently, it's huge files, from what I understand. So there's a lot of information to decipher.
okay.
Who's gonna do that? Like we
Volkert is the company.
Okay.
Can we expect to have some kind of an update at the next council meeting?
Maybe. Depends on how quickly they can go through that information.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, if it's possible, I'd like to get an idea of what they intend to try to, what the receivables are going to be. What are they going to actually tell us?
There's a lot of information.
Oh, I understand that. I'm talking about-
It's a pretty in-depth contract.
Is the contract someplace where I can look at it?
Yes, I don't have it here, but yeah, I can get you a copy of it.
Okay, good, thank you. Second thing, I just wanted to remind everybody about the 9th annual chili cook-off that's coming up on February 16th. That's President's Day weekend. Anyone can enter to be a chili contestant. It only costs you $35. You gotta have a good recipe. We're gonna have first, second, and third place winners in each category. You're with cash prizes of $200 for first place, $125 for second, and $75 for third. And the People's Choice Award gets $250. So it'll be a lot of fun, a lot of tasting. The other thing is we'll also be doing the ice sculptures. Ice sculpture registration, I should say the chili contestant registration's online, as is the ice sculpture registration. Same price as it was last year. The cutoff date is February 4th. So that's only a few weeks away. So February 4th, so that they have the time to carve all the sculptures before they have to deliver them on the 15th. So if the city's going to do another one, that would be great. Just jump on.
I would assume we do one every year.
Yep, good.
How many was there last year?
Pardon me?
How many were there last year?
Last year, I want to say there was, Jay, do you know? 23?
Yeah, something
So-
like that.
Yeah, they're pretty good. And anybody who doesn't have an ice sculpture place along Main Street, we just put them in the park. So they'll have representation.
There were a lot of them. I think there was more than that.
They
All over town.
fluctuate, yeah. But we are still the largest ice sculpture exhibition in the southeastern United
I
States.
believe that because it seems like there was more than 23. There was a lot in front of even merchants, and there were several in the park, as you said, around the.
We do a lot of them in the park.
There's probably 8 or 10 of them just around the monument.
Just around the monument. The Rock on Ice is the people we do it, and they're in high demand. They also do demonstrations during that Saturday, and do a phenomenal job. We have to reserve them a year in advance every time, so.
Which, I'm not really sure, does anybody video the carving when they're doing that? Because did you watch them carve?
Oh, I didn't, I was serving beer, but.
It's pretty amazing. We really should do a video of that and actually put it on our Facebook and out there on our.
We should.
There's quite a number of demonstrations throughout the day.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah, I mean, there's various ones and they're pretty neat. Fast.
We will do it. Any questions for the Business Association?
No, but let me go back to parking just a little bit. The end of the building, everybody is aware that we are going to be doing some parking on the side of the building here, right? Everybody was at the meeting.
Oh, I am, but I don't know who else.
So there's, I can't remember how many spaces, 74 additional spaces, I believe.
Is that including the deck or just out front?
Just to that side, from the old pull-through from
To the
Bank
street, right.
to the street, to Depot Street. And then we have also added 12 new parking places downtown, and we have, I believe it's 8 that will be opened back up for, in front of the fire department there. They just moved this week, so hopefully we'll have those back soon.
Oh, good. The reason I'm, again, parking is such a big issue in Blue Ridge. And I know what you're doing around City Hall, which I commend you for. I think it's a fantastic way to go. I think the plans that I've seen are fantastic. But that's just a small part of what we need. And so that's why I'm so hot to get this parking study done so that we can get back and actually see how many parking spaces do we really need and how are we going to do it? Where are we going to put them? I mean, that's going to be a bigger more than just what we have planned for.
The other thing that's going to help is the numbers from the parking lot that we're actually kind of have a lease with, where we're sharing, we send them half the proceeds that we collect there. So those numbers are going to be kind of interesting to see how they turned out too.
So other than the number from just information from Gene, that's all we need for the parking study?
They'll take a lot of that information.
But is that all we need to get it going?
You have approved everything on the city council.
Is that the only piece we're waiting on to get it done?
Yeah, it's taken on a little bit more urgency for me because for the first time since I've had my store downtown, I'm hearing from some of the owners is it's not just that their customers are complaining, now they're telling them they're not coming. So that's a big deal if they can't get enough parking. That's the first time I've heard that from so many people.
Well, we've heard that for years from a lot of folks, but I mean, downtown's pretty busy, even with a parking problem. And it's a problem a lot of cities would like to have. I hear it often.
Yep.
So,
and you hear it from me.
And we recognize it. I don't think anyone on this council does not recognize we have a parking problem. We just have a limited amount of funds to take care of our parking problem.
Yep. Gotcha. Okay. Nobody has any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, Gene Holcombe.
Today Gene Holcombe. I'm the BlueRidge and Bed and Breakfast and also the BlueRidge Brewery. Today I'm here to talk about garbage. And I'm going to preface this by saying I learned some information right before the meeting that may change the dynamics of what I'm going to talk about. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and say what I had planned to say. When I bought the brewery earlier this year, first thing I did was call City Hall to find out about what garbage collection companies are sanctioned by the city for us to use, and I was given the name of Advanced Disposal, which happens to be the same one that the previous owners used, and so I started service with them. Last month I decided I wanted to change the garbage collection company that I used because I was unhappy with the service that I was getting from Advanced. And that's when I find out that Advanced is the only company, what I thought was the only company authorized to collect commercial garbage in the city of Blue Ridge. At one time, there used to be 2 authorized companies, but Advanced bought out the competition, which left 1. My belief is that that's been going on for at least 3 years. just from the time that I bought the inn, it was just kind of the same situation. When I told Advance that I was unhappy and wanted to cancel, I was advised that I can't cancel because I had signed a 3-year agreement and that I had to buy out the contract in order to cancel my service. And also that I had to provide a notarized letter about my cancellation. So it really got me thinking about what's going on here. And Advanced Disposal is the only city-sanctioned garbage collection in town for commercial. They have a citywide monopoly. They're taking unfair advantage of their position to extort customers into paying. They do not provide any alternatives to their customers in terms of services or prices of their services. There's no discount for signing a multi-year agreement, which they force their customers to do, 3 years. And there's also no alternative so that we are forced to have to sign with them. And you know, there really isn't a need for having a notarized letter to be signed other than to make it difficult challenge for small business owners to deal with and really a scare tactic on their part. And because of this monopoly, there's nothing we can really do. And quite frankly, I think it's extortion. It's a citywide monopoly, not by your choosing, but because of the fact of the way that it is now, having bought out the competition. And because of their dominance in the market, they're taking advantage of and employing monopolistic and unfair business practices that I think are detrimental to the BlueRidge businesses and small business owners. It's unbelievable the hubris that this company takes and their ability to control the business with little care on their ends, and it needs to end now. Since the City Council has control over the services provided by these companies, I want to request that the City ask that Advanced Disposal cease and desist on their unfair business practices immediately while this is under review. And secondly, that the City seek out other companies to provide a competitive option to Advanced Disposal so that business owners have a fair option to obtain commercial garbage services in BlueRidge.
One thing I have learned since I talked to Eugene is North Georgia Waste also has bought a license from us, and I was told they only do residential, but they also do commercial, so you do have another alternative. We've had a couple of other companies in the past, and it's been pretty typical that Advanced is the big guys, so they've actually bought out most of the smaller guys over the years, so pretty much those folks that I think even and Harold maybe can help me remember, even the first garbage company that we had that we collected the fees for, Advanced bought them out also, right?
Yeah,
Roads, the roads is, yeah. So, you know, we can't keep those companies from selling their businesses, of course. Everybody wants to make a profit and those kind of things. But I do feel like that Kelsey and I were discussing this a little earlier today. We do need to look at our garbage ordinance. There was some issues that we had with another company that did some roll-off dumpsters, and apparently our prior attorney had left some language out that didn't allow us to collect the fee or allow us to collect a percentage. So we probably need to put, well, I think Kelsey was already going to send that to James today when we discussed it, that we need to change the language, maybe tighten it up, and maybe do solicit for at least that third company out there.
Well, what prohibits somebody else? Before I was on council, somebody had said that they had tried to offer garbage service to the city, but they weren't allowed to. Like,
you're allowed to buy a permit. We only have 3 because you really don't want 8 or 10 garbage services running in and out of town all the time because it would be hard on our roads.
Right.
It would tire. It was Roads for years, and Roads actually worked under the city of BlueRidge pretty much, and we collected their money for them and actually paid Roads every month. We paid their company. We changed that and allowed for 3 licensing permits, which are $1,000. Does that sound right? $1,000, and then they pay us 12% of the fee that they charge the customer back to us. In Advance, at this point, North Georgia Waste is the other one, and then Waste Away was the third one, and Waste Away has sold to Advance probably about a year ago or a little over a year ago.
So there's an option for one more.
There's a license available for one more company. But I really do think that we should require those companies to do residential and commercial, because that seems to be where the problem is you know, most of them only want to do residential, the commercial is a little tougher. They've got to buy those real expensive cans and things like that, and then they've got the expensive garbage trucks they have to run. And you just don't want 5 or 6 companies running those trucks in and out of town all day.
Totally understand that, and I didn't know about the other, what was the other?
Advanced.
No,
North Georgia Waste.
I didn't know about that. I mean, when I called the city, they told me, that it was just the one.
Well,
And at
we
the
will
time,
make sure
it-
they know that. Maybe they just thought that was your company. And the other thing is, even with Advanced, there were some mapping issues, and just recently, they actually came to me about 2 months ago and said that they had found other businesses in town that were actually using their services that were inside the city limits or just on the border. So their fee went up a couple of $1,000s because they weren't even paying us for all of them at that point. So we really need to do a better job in here of knowing who has the services, and we might need to do some paperwork on our end.
But, I mean,
Just to
also,
track.
just their business practices are, they're awful.
Competition will take care of that, though. I mean,
I know, but if no one knows,
so maybe we need to solicit for a third.
Well-
I know a couple of other local companies who also probably.
That can do
I couldn't find it
commercial,
on the website
that
either.
have commercial trucks that can do the canister, okay.
And it wasn't on the website, and it was just, I mean, that's all I knew. And believe me, they took advantage of that. And now they're, just like forcing me to pay 3 years' worth of service when I want to cancel. And I'm not going to do it. And they can sue me if they want, but I'm not going to pay them. But I think, the city can at least let them know that, this is now on the radar screen, and they're looking, you're looking at, having competition out there, and they need to cease and desist this type of practice immediately, at least while this is under review.
Well, they do have competition. There is North Georgia Waste, and there was at one point Waste Away. So it doesn't mean that if we bring in another company, even that they don't end up buying them out or something like that happen. But, that's another reason I feel like James needs to take a good look at the ordinance so that we don't have all the licenses tied up with one person or one company. So you may get some emails from him asking for some input as he reviews it. Okay? So are they working toward, I got a call today too that they were resolving some issues. There were some other billing problems. Okay.
Yeah, I got that same call from Ricky, and they're not, all they're doing is just saying they made a mistake in some billing and they're going to give me some credits, but they're not making any change in terms of their contract.
Well, the one thing that I learned that I found was interesting today, and Richie's not here, is he, by any chance? I thought he might have shown up for somebody from Advance. And I know this came up a few years ago with some other businesses in town. The cardboard, they actually only take that a certain day of the week, and sometimes people put cardboard in, and so they're actually charging an extra fee sometimes for that cardboard because I think he explained all that to you. So I think that kind of happened with several of your bills, and they worked on that for you. But so that's something I'd like to have some language put in there, because Advance doesn't recycle it. North Georgia, I think, recycles it, but it doesn't really matter. We need to come up with a way for people to dispose of cardboard, especially in your commercial businesses downtown. They have a lot of cardboard if they're getting product in.
And I don't care about, cardboard and this fee and that fee.
Apparently that was a hefty fee for you. From what I understood, it was like $40 if it was out there with your other garbage. So that's a lot to me if you've got to dispose of a few boxes for $40. So
Are they recycling it?
they don't.
No.
North Georgia Waste
They pick it
recycles.
up in a different truck on a different day, but they don't necessarily recycle it, and they have a lot of requirements for how the cardboard's broken down and where it's placed and how it's done, and they charge, just on us, you guys are making, if you're getting 12% of our bill. It's a nice bill. They're not very easy to deal with, and they're out of Jersey.
Well, we just need. Well, let me go back. We just need to get the language correct in the ordinance, so you guys need to kind of understand what you're wanting. And we do want the cardboard along with other trash picked up, because I really feel like that if everybody had garbage service inside the city limits, residential and commercial, that we would not have most of the trash that we have on the street. So we're spending a lot of money for guys to pick up trash constantly because it's blowing out of containers at their house where they're not carrying it off on a regular basis and things like that, so.
And Donna, they're not like,
North Georgia Waste does recycle, and actually, even with advanced disposal, and I didn't know this until my conversation today with Richie, they have at their, where do you go to?
transfer station.
Okay, the transfer stations, they actually have dumpsters there, or roll-offs there that you can put your cardboard in, that it doesn't cost you anything, but then who has the time to take that cardboard over to the recycling center? So maybe something that the city, which can get expensive too, because I know that I have cardboard that is picked up probably twice a week, and it's $100 to have it hauled, so. But it's still cheaper for me to have somebody pick it up than to actually have a couple of my guys load it and take it off.
They won't take commercial. They don't allow commercial cardboard drop-off.
Yes, they do.
At the transfer station?
I have it through North Georgia for that. Advance does my other. So North Georgia does allow commercial. So, but they do charge you for pickup. And they don't charge you for the cardboard. Will come up. It's so hard to hear everybody. Will you come up to the microphone?
Well, I don't need to for this.
I'll repeat you.
We do have the number of both of the companies that we give when anyone asks us.
Okay. Unfortunately, you got the wrong person that day because Glenda answers the phone a whole lot and she knows both names and both numbers, so.
I've got it right there on my desk.
And I couldn't find it on the website either.
Okay, and we can correct that also. Well, do we have any information about the garbage service on our website?
No.
Okay.
It'd be nice if we had somewhere like down, like centralized, that people can take their cardboard and they pick up just for recycling.
You've got an office with a parking lot. Could we put them in?
We don't have any parking lot left these days.
So that's the problem. We don't have, we did try to do some of that at our shop, but as you know, we are limited on space at our shop for those kind of things, so.
Donna, they take cardboard at the Astor Road. We get these big cardboard boxes when the bikes come in. We just flatten
You have to
them out.
flatten them.
Yeah, but then we just send the guy over.
And I think all the transfer stations, and I'm not sure if that's what they told me on the phone today or not. Do you remember, Gene, if they told you all transfer stations would take your cardboard for free? They do? Okay. So just a FYI. Okay, thank you. Kathy Brakefield?
Good evening, thank you. This is kind of tall for me, I'm ready to stand. Thank you for...
You can pull it down. Well, maybe
Is that
not.
good? Okay.
Are you
I
okay?
think, I never had anybody say they couldn't hear me in a room much bigger than this. So in fact, I'm just going to move it out of the way if any of you can't hear me.
It helps
It
her
makes
with
me
minutes
nervous.
is the only thing.
If you can't hear me, you just let me know, raise your hand.
The
and I'll-
recorder doesn't pick
Oh,
you
it
up.
doesn't pick,
unless-
oh, okay. Well, I don't know, I'm going to say a whole lot you want in the minutes, but my name, of course, as you know, is Kathy Cox Brakefield. My love affair with BlueRidge began a couple of weeks before Christmas in 1960 when my parents brought me home from Copper Basin Hospital, when Fannin County didn't have a hospital, to their home right beside the railroad where Brown's Feed Store was at the corner of Mountain and 8th Streets. We lived there until I was 2.5 years old. We moved out to the corner of Dry Branch to our farm. And I watched BlueRidge all of my life, even when I didn't live here. I was here often to visit my parents, to spend time here. And there is absolutely nothing I could tell you that would convince you how much I love BlueRidge, because I do. What we've been hearing tonight is some growing pains with BlueRidge. And no city goes through, no county goes through the kind of events we've seen. I actually had the good fortune to be at the beginning of one of them. I was working at the Attorney General's office for the Department of Transportation, and a guy came over and said he wanted to run a scenic railway from BlueRidge to McCaysville and lease the DOT tracks. And I came home and told my husband, this guy must be running a subterfuge to take nuclear waste through BlueRidge, because who in the world would ride a scenic train from BlueRidge to McCaysville? $5 billion later, however much it is, who knows? and how much that has brought to the town, I was wrong. That's just one example of things that have happened here during my lifetime that have changed things. In the 70s and the 80s and even the early 90s, downtown, as many of you know, because a lot of us are from here, was kind of a sad place. Boarded up buildings, a few people trying to hang on with their businesses. And all that has changed a lot. Sort of by fortuity, my family and I have become what the council calls short-term rental owners. We call it our houses. We call it letting people who need a place to stay, stay there. I'm not going to use legal terms tonight. Many of you know I'm a lawyer. But tonight I'm taking that hat off, and I'm glad I did. Your city attorney's not here. I did email him at Councilman Fitt's suggestion to give him some of my lawyer thoughts on short-term rentals, as the city has termed it. But I wanted to talk to you tonight as a citizen and a property owner, a long-time property owner in Fannin County. We bought our first property here, my husband and I, in 1996. We bought out my family's interest in our farm in 2001 and moved our family back to Blue Ridge. I'm not going to talk about the particulars of the ordinance. The ordinance is what y'all got. You know what the issues are. But at the workshop, I didn't say anything. I sat in the back of the room. I hadn't seen the ordinance. But I heard some comments from the council that suggested to me that there was a lot of negativity about furnished rentals within Blue Ridge. And so I wanted to share with you just a few of our experiences as owners, because even assuming the council and the city has the authority to completely ban these types of properties tomorrow, which I'm not conceding because I don't think that you do. But let's just assume for tonight that you did. The question is, why would you want to? And I wanted to share with you just a few stories of people that have visited with us that needed to come to Blue Ridge.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I don't think we're trying to ban it. So if that would help you with...
I understand that,
okay.
but
I think we're just trying to figure out where we feel like is a good place and what kind of rules we want, just so that it's a safe environment for your neighbors next door and things like
well,
that.
Well, and I wanted to talk to you about, because those were the concerns that were raised that I wanted to address.
We all know it's a tourist town and we know we're going to have nightly rentals. I think we're just trying to figure out the rules that we want to put in place to keep them from being just college kids coming up and taking over our town with 20 or 30 in your houses that only accommodate 6 people or something like that.
And I don't think that there have been that many instances of that.
I don't think there has either. I think we're trying to get in front of it rather than behind it.
But let me just give you a few folks that have stayed with us. A scientist at Project Chimps who had arrived in Fannin County with no knowledge of the area, who wanted a chance, and this is only of our Blue Ridge property. They were not hotel alternative folks for lots of reasons, which I won't get into. A family that whose mother was in the nursing home here in Blue Ridge, who wanted to spend several weeks visiting with her and have the ability to feel like they had a home to come to at night, stayed with us. And then, unfortunately, had to come back again for that family member's funeral. Those are just a few of the people who have stayed with us. And of course, we do have tourists stay with us who want to come to Fire and Ice, who want to be able to walk downtown so that they are part of the parking problem. They can do that from our house. We're in R3, which is already a mixed-use type of zoning, as you will know from, if any of you want to know, I've read this cover to cover 2 times. And there are lots of issues about what you can do with regard to zoning. Zoning is a constitutional level issue. But again, I don't want to get into that with you because I want to share with you some of the reasons why I think this is beneficial to the community. Those are the folks that if you had banned or even limited in my zoning area, they would have had to have found somewhere else to go. And none of them would have wanted to have placed those folks with small children, an elderly couple with handicaps, in a downtown loft or on a commercial street where there's a lot of traffic. People want, when they're in those kinds of settings, they want to feel like they're coming home at night, to the same kind of home that they came to when they come home to their home. If they're here for a wedding or whatever the reason is they're here. So they're going to want to be in residential areas. And I know you're concerned about that, so that's why I wanted to talk to you about that. These folks are never going to stay in a hotel. They're never going to stay in a high-rise downtown lawn. No disrespect to those folks, because there are lots of people who will stay in those types of properties. But then, if you wanted to get rid of it or limit it, what's the other reason? Is there some problem with the owners? Several of you have talked to me and have given me your thoughts on this, and there is absolutely no reason for owners not to be held accountable. Number one, everybody should be paying their taxes. I mailed my 23rd check to the city of BlueRidge today for lodging taxes from my home, and I will continue to do so. Although there are some things about your ordinance that I think are problematic, if you pass that ordinance, I'm going to do everything in my power to be on your team and to comply with it in every way that I can, and to help you in any way that I can to see that everybody that's in this business does that. But in addition to that, owners that are renting these kinds of properties improve the property. If people are wanting the type of home that they live in where they are when they come to BlueRidge for a week, 2 weeks, 2 nights, 2 months, then they're going to expect a high-level property. During the time that we've owned our home, we've upgraded plumbing, we've upgraded electric, we've put in new HVAC, a new roof, a new backyard fence, we have repaired appliances, we've cleaned carpets, we've removed dangerous trees that might be of danger to our neighbors and to our property. We've engaged pest control. We regularly maintain our yard and all of our properties so that folks will want to come and stay there and will feel comfortable when they're there. All of those things that owners do. And no owner who's responsible would not do that, because otherwise your property's going to lose value and people are not going to want to stay there. And all of those are a benefit to all of us, to the community, to the city, to your tax base. And so I would encourage you to look at all of those issues as you're making these decisions. I realize there are occasionally problems, and I know the social media thing is these are all 25-year-old college kids, bring 40 people up here. That has not been our experience. For one thing, they can't afford it. For another thing, if they're going to do that, they're not going to pick in town where the police department's a block away. They're going to be out in the forest somewhere where it's going to take the cops a long time to get there. We have seen largely middle-aged and older couples who are afraid of the back roads, who don't want to drive out to the back of a mountain when they're out at night going to the grocery store or something. Those are the people who are going to find town attractive. Folks with small children who want to be able to go to the train and ride the train with their children. And there are ways that you can, as someone today that I spoke to on the council talked about accountability. There's plenty of ways to hold property owners accountable. How do you hold property owners accountable who are long-term landlords, who rent unfurnished? If they create a problem, you're going to address it through either your noise ordinances, nuisance, or in the extreme case of your condemnation powers, if it becomes such a problem that it needs to be condemned. The city has plenty of police powers to deal with issues. I am imploring you, please don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Please think about the fact that there are lots of folks around town in residential areas who are renting their properties to the benefit of their neighbors. I went to every one of my neighbors and said, this is what I'm doing. Mr. Brackett, who lived across the street from me for years and years, who sadly passed away after we bought our property, told me, thank goodness you bought this. It's been sitting here for 5 years vacant with no one doing anything other than mowing the grass. We're so glad that someone is looking after their property. That's the kind of owner that I represent, and I think most of the owners are that kind of owner. If you have a problem, address it by your regulatory and police powers. Don't try to limit people's use of their property, because people do have constitutional rights with regard to their property. And they are going to expect those to be respected. And there are already many, I went online, I've read your ordinances, I've done a lot of research. There are many properties within the residential areas in the city that you will have to contend with if you do try to ban this type of use in residential areas. I know you've limited my time. Thank you for your, I'm sure I've used more than 5 minutes. I appreciate your interest and your concern. I brought some of my cards. I wanted you all to be able to visit my website and see my property. I had to write it on the back of this card. And if any of you would like to talk to me, my phone number is on here. I'll give the card one for the record. I'd be glad to talk to any of you at any time. I'd be glad to have you come look at my property. If you want to drive by it, it's 674 East 2nd Street. It's surrounded by commercial properties except on one side, even though the two properties to the south, I suppose, toward Depot Street are both really residential properties. They're zoned commercial. There is no difference between my property and the ones behind me that are commercial, that are long-term rentals right now. And both of those properties have people come and go. We never know who's back there. There will be dogs one day, kids one day, trash, then gone, someone else is in there. But those people have the right to rent their property that way. Just as I believe we have a right as property owners to rent our property in different ways, but that are also residential, because this really is a residential type of setting. And most of the folks who come view themselves, whether it's 2 days, a week, a month, they view themselves as residents of that home while they're there. They treat it respectfully. And I've been a long-term landlord. I can tell you that the difference between respect for property from the folks that rented from me as a long-term lease and these folks is night and day. I've had very, very few problems. Never, to my knowledge, has the city had any issues with my property. And if you ever do, I assure you, I'll be one of those owners that's accountable, and I believe every owner should be accountable. And in any way that you feel that that can be looked at to hold people accountable, people should have the police called if they're violating the law. Even though I think it's kind of superfluous, I'll put in my rental agreement for you. You must not violate the law while you're in my residence, even though none of us are supposed to be violating the law. I'll do anything you ask to try to help you. I want to be on your team. I want to make BlueRidge a great place for visitors, for owners, for residents. And that's who I am. Anything else I can help you with, I'll be glad to.
I've got 2 questions for
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
And we don't usually do a question and answer, but some of them may have, because you brought, first of all, what is your corporate name for yours? Is it BlueRidge Bungalow?
BlueRidge
I
Bungalow
thought that was
LLC is our corporate name.
And then you've read our ordinance. I guess if you've read our zoning book, you read our ordinance. So was there anything in particular other than I picked up on that you said they're R3? You're interested in it being an R3, not just in the commercial. It's what we've basically done in the past. Was there anything in the ordinance that you had a real issue with? Because, you know, a lot of it talks about the responsibility of the owner or the property management company and those things, the safety, the respect of your neighbors, those type of things. Was any of that a problem? From what you said, it sounds like you're in agreement with it.
I will say in general that I don't think the ordinance is a problem. I do think that there are a few things in it that really may be beyond the city's authority.
In that or the application process?
In the
actual ordinance?
And the one that comes to mind immediately is requiring people to give you their homeowners policies. I doubt you require that of business owners or other landlords. That's not something that really, if I choose to self-insure and my house burns down and I'm going to rebuild it without insurance, I don't see that as a governmental function. Plus, I think the Lodging Association person suggested to you all that that's going to create a lot of bookwork for your employees that I'm not sure.
It's kind of like when you get a mortgage on your home. If you know, if you've got a mortgage, they'll ask for your insurance. They list you as additional insured, and it automatically comes out. So I don't know that it would create a lot of paperwork. But you know, that's a attorney question, and he's not here.
They have a financial interest in my home until it's paid off. The city does not.
And I think it's the liability for the neighbors on, you know, kind of like driving your car, the liability there. But anyway. Is that the only thing that you really saw that you had a question about?
I really didn't study it again this afternoon to go into that, but another thing that comes up is your 30-day thing is different than the State Department of Revenue. It's actually beneficial to owners for everything over 30 days to not be taxable, but that's different than the state. And that does create, frankly, a bookkeeping problem for owners like me, because I have to charge X% to the state and then a different percent to you if the city only does 30 days or more, because it's 90 with the state. But in general, I think make it easier. If you've got a little old lady who's in Florida and she rents her house when she's not here, but filling out all those immigration forms, perhaps it would be better to have a city employee meet with the person when they come in to apply and do that, rather than, because you're going to get the calls anyway. They're not going to understand it. I understood it. I don't know if it's required by some money thing you have or what. I haven't seen that in the other 2 jurisdictions that I have rental properties in. But that was one thing that seemed a little much, was all those extra pieces of paper. I don't really know if you want to get into the business of reviewing people's short-term rental agreements. Because again, that might pull the city into issues with what you've got in there and what it, really it's in people's best interest to make those contracts the way they should be for our interest. And yeah, that's going to be a lot of work for the city to review all of those. But it can be done. I've already started redrafting mine to put everything in it that you all want in it.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions for him?
I thank you all for your time, and those of you that talked to me personally, and if anyone else would like to.
And I tried to call you, but I must have had a wrong number, because I knew you'd talked to several people, and I had some questions for you, but.
Well, I
guess
you've got it now.
I have it now.
And if you have any other questions, you feel free to call me.
Yeah, I had several
Thank you
people.
so much.
Thanks. Okay, wayfinding sign, Cindy Trimble.
I just want to say, first off, thank you for allowing us to get to this point. It's been many years that we have been working and brainstorming, and thank you, Nathan, for championing this to get it to this point, and Jean for pushing it. As the city has grown, and we have more and more people, we have more vehicular traffic, we have more foot traffic. We have our new shop, the BlueRidge runner. We have parking needs, we have bathroom needs, we have all kinds of layers and layers and layers of activity. It is critical that we have a plan for signage and master plan for signage. And years ago, I don't even know how many years ago it was, we worked on the master plan 6-8 years ago. But that exercise was all an effort for getting to this point. And it was to create a vision for the city, 5-year, 10-year down the road of where the city wanted to be, and then locate all of the various components, the parking, the circulation, bathrooms, and all that kind of stuff. That has not been finalized. There is a really good start on the master plan that has pathways. It expands the green space of the park from the south end all the way down to the north end parking lot. So there's some really good developments that are in that. And so what we started here with this preliminary wayfinding signage design is sort of it's spun off of the 2020 exercise, the Great Day of Service, and the master plan. And so what I'm going to show you tonight are some preliminary concepts for some of the individual signs. And the next step will be to take some of these, if the council is comfortable with this design direction, then what we will do is we'll have several of us get together, we'll take a map of the city, and we will go around and look at where we need some of these signs immediately. I think areas that would be impacted by the master plan in terms of additional streetscape down on Roberts Way and whatever else we're going to do to the park, we may want to may want to hold on implementing some signs in those areas, just because we don't want to have to go back and take them up and redo and that kind of thing, so.
I was gonna tell you, so I was in Asheville last week, and I was looking at all their signs, and down below, those are actually, I didn't realize how similar some of those were to what we came up with, but down below theirs, they had left spaces that, like, if they needed to add something, so they don't have to redo it, they were like inserts that could go on there.
Absolutely.
Which is a good idea, we might wanna.
Absolutely.
At least editing those so we can add stuff.
Absolutely. And so the process, just to bring you to how we got here tonight, several months ago, the council approved a contract for a graphic designer to put these designs together. And we hired Gary Godby, who Gary lives in BlueRidge now. He spent 35 years as a graphic designer with Disney. He painted the first Mickey Mouse on the water tower in Orlando when Disney World came into Orlando. So anyway, he has a great vision of the kind of things that need to take place, and he's very familiar from working, you know, in that environment down there on how to catch people's eyes and direct them. So the first two over here, the comment that we heard during the Great Day of Service and the master plan is that people drive right by BlueRidge on the highway. They don't know where the entrance is. Some people say, I didn't even know there was a historic town. And so we came up with an idea that we needed gateways. And there have been a lot of ideas floated around, but these first two designs over here are gateways that would occur eventually on 5 different locations. So they would start on the south where the Chevrolet dealership is, then the next one would be at Burger King, and then McDonald's, and then at Windy Ridge. Yeah, at where Mesquite Grill is, and then down at CVS. So I think I got them all right. But anyway, so because these are city-owned signs and funded signs, we can't put them on the DOT right away, so they will not be on the highway. But as the roads come off of the highway, whatever that distance back is, which we don't know if it's 50 feet or 75 feet, whatever that is, then we will locate these archways. And so, can y'all hear me? I'll try to talk loud. The difference in these two designs, A and B, and you all have the drawings there, is that we've integrated seasonal posters that occur. The other one has them on the inside, and I think our committee kind of agreed that they like the B version with the posters on the outside. And so these are large, this metal post with the seasonal.
Same size as what we're using now.
Same size as what you're using, so it keeps in with the Chamber and the BlueRidge Business Association. And then the top part here, these are layers of flat cut-out metal that are backlit, so that you'll see them at night. And, you know, we looked at versions. Do we even need to say BlueRidge, or do you know, I mean, you know you're in BlueRidge when you come up the highway. So it could even be, you know, there are some places, you look at a lot of icons, the golden arches. McDonald's doesn't even say McDonald's on their signs anymore. They just have the golden arches. So, you know, this is kind of a play off of the Chamber mountains and, anyway.
Is that reflective, or is that what you're saying, that's reflective at night?
It's not reflective, no. No, it's not reflective.
I think you said it was backlit.
It is backlit. So you have layers of the mountains are layered like they are in reality. So if this is a mountain edge, then behind it would be a light so that those colors are illuminated, so that you would see this at night. And then the BlueRidge would be lit as well. So anyway, and as you see, we drew them showing how large they are. So
so that a truck can get under it and then the car. So this was the first step, was to develop a gateway. And then these signs all have to do with the different signs that would occur throughout all throughout downtown. So one of the things that the Business Association started 5 years ago, approximately, is we started designing and making You Are Here maps for downtown, and it was kind of a spin-off of the shopping guide that had all of the businesses downtown. And even though the Business Association does it, we don't just include our members, we include everybody that has a business downtown on the map. And so the You Are Here maps would occur, right now we have 5 or 7? 5, we have 5 of them now. And so wherever they occur, you would have a dot showing where you are, so that you would know where bathrooms are, where parking, whatever store it is. So this design right here is showing a freestanding kiosk that would occur. I think we just made a sign for out front here. But it's three-dimensional. This is the front view right here. This is the front view, and this is the side view. So it has a little roof over it, so somebody can kind of stand underneath it and look at the map. And it's two-sided. There's an opportunity for advertising on this, and it's something we haven't developed further, but on a lot of the signs, if we needed help with funding, we're hoping we can get grants maybe for some of this. Thank you, DDA. That's going to help us possibly get some funding. But anyway, there's an opportunity. One side could be a map, the other side could be advertising. This is a Jean's, the BlueRidge Runner bus stop sign, and they would be numbered throughout. So wherever we have the bus stops would be located on our You Are Here map. So somebody could look at it and say, well, we need to go down there to stand in line to get on the bus. These are directional signs that would occur at intersections where you needed directions, left or right or whatever. So.
And just to be clear, for funding, a lot of these we may phase in. We're not going to do them all at once.
Exactly.
We were just trying to set a master plan so they're consistent as we add them through town.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, as I indicated, these are just conceptual. So this one is showing parking, different options for parking signs. So, and restroom, dog park. This one, we have stop sign, ATM, shopping, dining, ATM, train, all of this kind of stuff. So, again, these are conceptual. The next step would be to go around town and see which ones we need and how many of them, and then simultaneously we can get Gary to start researching pricing. And the way these are designed right now, we tried conceptually, they refer to BlueRidge in the mountains with a stone base. The elements that look like wood are not wood, they are metal that have either a wrap on them that looks like wood, or they're painted just a brown color. And then these signs can be either flat or dimensional. Some of them can be lit if we need to have them internally illuminated for nighttime. If we need to have any of them reflective, there's so many layers and different things that we can do. But the next step would be to take these and see how many of which ones and prioritize bus stops, stop signs, maybe some of the directional signs, and then the wayfinding, the You Are Here maps.
So somebody else mentioned the You Are Here maps, and I don't know what the cost is, we can check on it, but they said depending on what our funding is and what we need, that we might look at a digital, that way as the businesses change, it would be easier to change it. And
Absolutely.
You might can offer some more advertising opportunities.
Absolutely, and Gary's actually designed a lot of the digital So we did talk about that in the meeting. I think that's a great idea.
That would be a lot more expensive.
Well,
But it's
I know
very
there's a lot of
expensive,
advertising
yeah.
on it, we might can offset some of it, so, that's our next thing, is we've got to price these out.
I mean, imagine what it would cost just to have to go and, erase it and write over it and, all the many changes that you would have to have. Having digital would, obviously be a lot easier, but I think the advertising component would easily pay for any of the additional costs of having a digital sign.
Since the stop sign is on there, Cindy, is the goal to replace all the signage in town? Whether it be railroad crossing, I mean, that's gonna get pretty expensive if we're gonna try to do stone and do our stop signs, no.
I don't think we're going to replace, I think we just.
Because we just
start
spent
as
a
we
lot
do
of
new
money,
stuff with this. and
Replacing a lot of those signs anyway, because there's new rules and
I
they
agree.
have to be
I think the
reflected.
main
in
ones
the-
coming in our new parking deck, like, and some of the main
The
places.
key
in town, maybe
locations.
Key locations to make it
Yeah.
more consistent, but to replace them all, I mean.
Yeah, I think you're right, you
I was
wouldn't
gonna
do all of
say,
them.
The
I mean-
sign itself is very expensive, much less the post and everything.
Cindy,
Okay.
two things. I don't think the digital would be that expensive because they just use, TV monitors, and when you go in restaurants, they're hanging up and they change constantly. It's
I
just
think it's
about,
worth checking.
it's just about getting the software that shows it or whatever, but two,
Absolutely.
did you guys talk about, you're referring to the 2020 committee that, we were on. And one of the things that came out of that I really liked was the idea of painting that bridge, Windy Ridge. Did you guys talk about that?
We talked.
That is
Yeah,
not,
we did talk
that
about
is
it.
not a bridge, that is an overpass. I was corrected by GDOT on that, it's an overpass.
But when you,
And it does not
That's-
belong to the city, it belongs to the state of Georgia, so that takes permitting again, as does the right of
but when
way,
you
so.
designed there,
Absolutely.
what you
So-
designed there would
Oh.
fit perfectly on.
I think so too,
overpass.
I think it would look
Absolutely,
awesome.
I think it's a,
And I
yeah,
think that
that's
one,
come up a whole bunch of times,
I
yeah.
think that one needs to say welcome to Blue Ridge.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
The DOT you can get, I mean, you see that when you're driving on
You do.
I-75 going through towns, you'll see them.
I think those.
You do,
Yeah,
That would be nice.
but,
That's.
yeah, I mean,
That's in our presentation, it's really familiar, I mean, really
It
similar
was.
to this.
I think that would be wonderful to do that, yeah, and there, again, there are different, as you know, different avenues for funding for some of these, from
Hey,
grants.
do it before,
Especially for
do it
Gateway.
before Blairsville puts only 18 miles to Blairsville on that.
so it'd be nice to light that overpass too.
Absolutely. Well, in Atlanta, they're doing all the different themed bridges with the lights. The Kennesaw exit on 75 has the shape of the Kennesaw Mountains. And then they've got one that looks like an elephant bone. They've got one that looks, they're fabulous.
All of them are,
Yeah.
it's just a permitting process, so.
So the next step is we want the rest of the council to see these, and then I guess now we just need to proceed with getting costs per signage. That way we can put together a plan of what we would start with, even if it's the basic ones for parking and
Exactly.
the main waywards, so. You go with that?
So I guess, are you saying that you would just get a number for us as to how many signs and what areas, or start with, this is plan A, plan
I think
B?
it's gonna be a phase plan, yeah.
I think, again,
that
there are
would
several
help so that
layers.
we had dollars amount, I think.
And a per sign amount as well.
We need a dollar amount per sign, and again, that's gonna change with quantity.
And then
But
focus
I
on the
think-
key anchor points of where those places need to begin with.
I think the
And
map
Right.
would really help.
And then we need to prioritize what signs are most important right now.
And maybe layer that with your phase one on the map, so that they can actually see those points.
Right.
So money-wise, like, who can check into like what money we might get for these?
What grants are available? There's a gateway grant, isn't there? Didn't you
There's
say?
a gateway grant, but it's usually, well, I don't know if it's called gateway, it's, there is a grant, it's like a $50,000 grant, but I'm not sure. I'll have to check, I don't know.
Because I think we need to
I don't
find
know
out
the answer.
first, before, that way we'll know financial, what
Usually it's
options are available,
planting.
because that's going to determine.
That one's usually planting and not signs, so.
Right.
I think also, just as conversation, the electrical needs to be considered as well.
Oh, yeah.
This installation, like the sign costs are great, but what would it take to install it with electrical, so.
Absolutely.
Solar is very efficient now.
Yep, absolutely. Those are all great. Yep.
Yeah,
Other
this might,
questions?
except for this land.
And then we're becoming a green city too.
Anybody have any questions for Cindy?
Yeah, you can't actually.
Can you leave these here?
Yes,
For us to be
leaving
able to
them.
look
Yep,
through?
they're yours.
And then if they've got questions or changes or suggestions, they just need to get back
And
to
that's a great point, too, so there may be grants for like, green cities, like if you.
like if you do big solar fields and stuff, yeah.
These are all solar powered now.
Okay, so this is on here as an action item. Are we wanting to do some type of motion to approve to move forward, a motion to approve so much money? What was your goal?
No, I think, we just wanted the other council
Should've been
members to
discussion.
see it and just bring it up, and then I think we'll
So you're
we'll work
gonna
on the
table
pricing.
this is under action, so you would like to table till you get pricing back?
Oh, I didn't realize it was an act, yeah.
Okay, can you make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we table the wayfinding signs till next council meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Appointment of Tree City USA board members. We talked about Tree City last month, and we do have board members. I'm looking. Okay, we've talked with Fran Stoker. Is that how you say it? Stoker? S-T-O? Okay, Fran Stoker, Kathleen Holt, Charlotte Dickinson, Jim Yakavon, I'm probably butchering these names, and Kim Keenan, who I would like to see act as the secretary of the tree board. Does anybody have anyone else that would be interested? Most of these ladies are master gardeners, and they're already helping us with projects like the park and Mineral Springs and other places. And they've done a wonderful job for us so far. Is anybody got someone else to add? You have to beg people to be
What
board
is the
members.
Tree City Board?
Well, it basically, the life cycle of a lot of our trees, as you've noticed, this fall especially, I noticed a lot of the tops of our trees were out and we're having some die and they're throwing big limbs and things like that. So we're needing to start a plan to replace trees and to make sure that we're treating them, keeping them healthy. Just
So overseeing the trees and stuff.
overseeing all the trees and the shrubs.
Just
And
like it says there.
of course, in the ordinance, which we're gonna read the ordinance or part of the ordinance, and that's gonna be an important piece because there's a couple of things I really like in the ordinance, but it's gonna change the way, you're gonna have to clear some right-of-ways on your property, so anyway, we'll talk about that when we get to the ordinance. You can't let your trees overhang sidewalks and intrude into the streets. Do you like that, the slate of board members?
Can you have the walls of the neighboring house falling over? Never mind.
Thank you, John. So I need to know if we're all on the same page with the appointment of those board members that I mentioned. And do you want to make a motion to approve them?
And they've all been,
They all agree.
They volunteered.
Yes.
Kim Keenan?
Kim Keenan is our employee, and I would like for her to act as secretary. Once they have a board meeting, they can all elect, I would just like for her to be the secretary, but you don't have to approve it that way.
You just looking to approve those four?
No, I need to approve all 5. She needs to be a board member too.
She know it.
Yes.
She knew that.
Yes. Yes. She's a city employee, that's gonna be one of her duties. And I have sent Kim to some classes with arborists about pruning and trimming back trees and shrubs, so she's kind of the natural employee to do that. I need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve these 5 for the City of Blue Ridge job description for the tree board members.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Thank you. And then we have the first reading of the ordinance. An ordinance establishing the regulation of the planting, removal, and management of trees on public property and right-of-ways of the city, to establish certain standards, to create a city tree board, to provide for enforcement, to establish penalties, to allow for appeals, and for other purposes. You all got a copy of this last week and have had a chance to read through it, but like I said, this would also give us, we need to clear out pathways that are unsafe, and gets the property owners to maintain and prune and plant, take care of their properties too. So, and we do have a lot of tree issues in the city of Blue Ridge. Also, the utility companies help us with cutting back the trees that are in the power lines and things like that. So do I have well, that's the first reading, so we don't have to vote on that, I'm sorry. Any questions? Okay. The TE grant, the TE 21, this is the grant, the T grant for Mountain Street intersection there on West Main. It comes back to almost the Southern Charm building. And it's resolution number BR 2019-01, an activating resolution by the City Council for the City of Blue Ridge, Georgia, and the Georgia Department of Transportation to contract for funding under the Transportation Equity Act for the 21st century and for other purposes. So that's actually a resolution. So we do need to approve that by motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution number BR 2019-01, which is the T21
Do I have a
resolution.
second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay. Hill Street right-of-way abandonment. Resolution BR 2019-02, a resolution by the City Council for the City of Blue Ridge, Georgia, pursuant to Section 6.32B of its Charter and OCGA 36-7-1 et sec, to grant the application of Blue Ridge Innovations application that the city abandon a certain parcel of real property known as an unopened portion of Hill Street, and more particularly described herein, to authorize the mayor to execute the necessary quitclaim deed in form acceptable to the city attorney and for other purposes. This is the property that
It was shown on a plat, but it was never actually a road, correct?
there's no way it could be a road.
Charlotte Stadium's
It's right beside Charlotte Stadium.
Yeah,
It's on
that
the
big
top.
bluff.
It comes off there.
Yeah.
The hill there. On the other side of our little problem that we had recently, our washaway, our
Yeah, that's.
landslide.
We need an elevator on the road. We need to vote on this?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve the right-of-way abandonment of Hill Street.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Carter and Slick Master Engineering Service Agreement. Here's a copy of that. This is just an agreement for their engineering services. I think we do them 3 years at a time. So we just need to review it.
Are these the same rates as before? Do you know, Kelsey?
Do not think they're this, do not know for sure. They're very close if they're not the same. I think they're the same, Nathan.
And does this encompass anything that they do, like all projects, or is it specific to just one?
It's all projects.
Okay. So just for the year? So it's 1 year at a time? Is that what it is?
3 years. It's a 3-year agreement. can send a copy of their last year's fees, or 3 years ago, it'll be 3 years ago. But I know a couple of them look the same. So do we, will that take you very long? Okay, let's just move on to the other two and go, and come back to number 16. 17, Carter and Sloop Task Release number 16.03, that's the Highway 5 water line relocation, and we did renegotiate that contract, and it did bring it down several thousands of dollars.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and approve the Carter and Sloop Task Release 16.03, which is the Highway 5 water line relocation.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? And I just want to point out that was a $2.4 million project. We really appreciate the help that we got, that we're not having to spend that $2.4 million out of city funds. Carter Sloop Task Release number 20.02, oh, what, that was the one, no, 20.02, Highway 515 water line extension. Need a motion to approve that.
Make a motion that we approve Carter Sloop Task Release number 20.02, Highway 515 water line extension.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Smith and Loveless quote, this is lift station.
This is for that leak that was inside the plant that was coming through the walls. I don't know that water. Got pictures of it.
Wait, has it already been fixed? This is just it, or they haven't fixed it?
No, this is the sewer plant. This is the
So
sewer plant.
we are sewer needs to see them out, that's what one
Yeah,
doing now.
they actually had a, yes, it was an emergency repair, but it was over my authority, so I think y'all are just,
That's one we just got the email on from Becky.
yes, you got an email about 2 or 3 days ago, just 2
Friday,
or 3
yeah.
days ago, yeah. And they came in, they had lightning hit, and I asked them to go ahead and file an insurance claim. Do you remember that email? Okay, that's what it's for.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Smith and Loveless invoice. It's number KY-2018-12-17-2 for the lift station.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? We'll go back to number 16. Okay, the principal went up $20 an hour.
Looks like senior professional went up $15. It's all of them are
It says
$15 to $20.
your CAD person's the same.
And it's not a huge increase for a 3-year contract.
Doesn't have nearly as many, well, not nearly as many titles.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve Carter and Sloop Master Engineering Services Agreement?
I make a motion we approve the Carter Sloop Master Engineering Services Agreement.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor? Okay. And discussion on short-term rentals ordinance. I know we had a pretty good discussion with Ms. Brakefield, but does anybody else have any questions, concerns, any comments from the council? I hope to have this on the agenda next month for a first reading, and we'll have our second reading in March.
On the short-term rentals ordinance, for me personally, I appreciate Ms. Brakefield coming up here and expressing her love for the city and wanting to do anything she can to be a part of the team here to make this city grow. I wish everybody was on the same page as that. That would be great. If we did that, we probably wouldn't have social media. But anyway, there's always a
negative social media.
There's always a few bad apples that ruins every batch, don't they?
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to punish the good owners here. We're just trying to make sure we protect the citizens, protect the properties of all costs. But we actually have to let the citizens see in the same breath that these owners, the good owners, such as Ms. Brakefield, is increasing the beauty of Blue Ridge by taking property that's been abandoned. We can all sit here and name about 5 to 6, maybe 10 locations around here that needs some loving care. And sometimes it takes some business owner or something like that to come in and say, let's buy that property. It's been run down forever, and turn it into something that you can be proud of. You know, you can take right up here by the trailer. Remember that first road coming right off of the trailer, those houses right there? I had buddies that lived in those houses right there. They were happy growing up there, but it was time when they moved on, and guess what? Somebody came in and made immaculate looking homes, and I'm not saying anything about the heritage of Blue Ridge or anything like that. I'm saying, of all things, Blue Ridge and all cities have to evolve. We can't be lethargic in anything we do. If we be lethargic, we die. Evolving is the process of getting older. We're not always kids any longer. We grow up and become smarter. We become adults. Sometimes the adults become dumber. But we evolve into adults. And so I think it's something we take this seriously, because this ain't something that's just like an ordinance that we're passing. We all have something at play here. This is something we want to protect our kids, and that's the main objective, as for me, is protecting the citizens and protecting the kids in this. And so, yeah, we have a lot of stuff that's proposed to be in this application, but we're just trying to manufacture that, make it a little bit easier. But the whole purpose in all of our decision making is protection. It's not about business. It's not about making money. We don't, me personally, I'd care less. We can always make money somewhere else. But in this thing, we're looking at protection of the citizens, protection of the properties, and making Blue Ridge beautiful in what it is, and showcasing it. You know, that's what I feel. People's asked me a lot of questions about short-term rentals, and I told them the same thing. Protection of the citizens, but also protecting the properties and making them just beautiful, however we can do that. And I think that's the beauty of Blue Ridge, is we come together as one and we work together. And I think everybody's talked about this council. I think this is probably one of the largest turnouts we've had because we're so boring now. And it's because we work together. We may not like every decision we make, but in our eyes, we're doing everything we can to protect everybody and also increase the beauty of Blue Ridge.
I do think some of the things in the application and the resolution is a little much.
Well, I think that Savannah is where a lot of folks have looked at, they've kind of championed the way with the rental market and the.
I mean, there may be some reasons that's in there, and that's why I would rely on James to see what
And I'm sure there
the legal
are.
opinion is, but I mean, I thought some of it was a little extreme, to
Well,
be honest with you. And I'm probably one that differs, like, we're resort town, I don't have an issue with rentals, period. Again, I think our long-term rentals are worse than our short-term rentals, and if you're gonna live in a resort town, you gotta expect it. That's just my personal opinion.
Well, I do like the fact that there is people like Ms. Brakefield who does want her property taken care of. And I think you're fine that if we have issues as law enforcement and they're disturbing the peace or they're harming your house, you would like for the law to actually be able to contact you.
Yeah, I think we need regulations on it.
So I feel like there's folks that do want some of those. I know I've talked to several folks that have, in the lodging association and things, so they're all in favor of some rules and regulations. It's just how far do we take those and what are we all comfortable with? Of course, you know, we don't want our law enforcement to spend all their time handling just cabin rules. We want those owners to be responsible too. So if they've got some rules and they know that we're not going to allow certain things to happen, then our law enforcement's not tied up doing that constantly. So
No, I'm fine with the regulations on there. I guess what I'm not 100% settled on is the zoning and or outline of what areas we're gonna.
that hasn't been addressed at this point.
I know, but it needs to be.
I mean, it's coming. That's why I said I'd like to have a first reading, so I'd like for everybody to be thinking, because I've not,
But don't we need
you're
that-
the only person I've really gotten feedback from.
But don't you think we need to do that before we?
Well, I think if you don't get something in place, you're gonna have more and more issues. So I think you're gonna have to start somewhere.
Just feel like let's get the cart before the horse if we don't outline.
I think if you don't get started, you're gonna have so many show up in different places and you're not gonna be happy. So I think if you have your first reading, you say whether it's CBD, C2, C1, R3, pull out your zoning book, figure out what you're comfortable with. As she says, there's multi-use in R3, understand your zoning rules and come in and have a conversation with Jeff. But I think it's time to start naming some of those areas.
You're
All or
talking
none.
about starting
You gotta start
the
somewhere.
ordinance. He's talking about
I think you
the
do it all
ordinance
together.
completed. And
Well,
already having the zoning areas where we can.
That gives you 60 days from today, pretty much, to have those areas designated. You don't have to have them in your first reading, but by your second reading, you need to know, are you accepting C1, C2, CBD, R3, R2, R1, whatever. But I think you've got 60 days to do your homework and come up with what you're comfortable with, that you can either raise your hand, yes, I'm comfortable with, and we may have to do it by each category. CBD, everybody raise their hand. C2, get the, you know, we may all be on a different page there. I think we will be, but, so you know, but do your homework. You got 60 days to do it, but I feel like we need to come up with something, or otherwise, you're opening the doors for her to have a really good rental unit and somebody else to come in and mess it up for her. You know, we want that to happen. If we're gonna have rentals, we want it to be maintained. We want our police officers to be able, I would like to see signs.
I like to see houses like that continue to get cleaned up, and people who do vacation rentals with them do go and fix them up and clean them up, and it improves the neighborhood. So I would like to see other segments of town be able to do that.
Jeff and I have discussed, we'd really like to see signage at each of those properties so that our police officers can identify those easily.
I agree with that.
And then they know that Ms. Brakefield says that house will accommodate 6 people, and if there's 20 people trying to spend the night there, they're gonna pick up the phone and call her, because they're gonna have a sheet that's got Kathy Brakefield's number on there, and let her know there's 20 people spending the night at your house. Because
There's
we
also
actually,
criminal theft of services that can come into play on that separately and apart from this.
unfortunately, in a small city, we're actually having people squat in some of these abandoned houses. You know, they're moving in.
There are laws against that as well that are even outside the council that can be handled with the individuals.
Yeah. So I think we want to help each other. I think we need comments like she just brought to the table, and we've had some others that have contacted some of you. I mean, I appreciate her coming. It's when they don't come and tell us what they have an issue with. It's when we all get messed
They'll
up.
come the next month.
Yeah. After it's done.
I'll call you, Madam Mayor, about specifics on the ordinance, because I really hadn't focused on that tonight. I didn't know you tried to reach me. I'll be glad to call you.
Well,
I'm sure
and you know, I looked at Savannah's ordinance and a couple of others. You know, all cities are trying to work towards something to get some rules and regulations into place. I mean, there's some cities, they're bigger cities, of course, and they've had problems, but those are coming to BlueRidge too. Those people that stay in Savannah come to BlueRidge and spend the night. So, you know, we're all probably going to disagree, but I think that we just need to figure out, you know, we've already got some out there. These are already in place, they're already paying their dues, you know, they're out there. So decide, make some decisions, and from this point forward, or in 60 days, you've decided it's in this area, or it's, if we keep waiting, we're gonna have a bigger problem. I mean, I would love to have had the first reading tonight and be ready to vote in February. But we didn't do that. We didn't put it in as an action item. So it will be listed as an action item. Oh, Glenda, you want to come to?
Are we allowed to make a statement?
Yes, I think so, because I think this is an important piece. So I think we need to hear everybody. I mean, does anybody have a problem? I mean, I think that's what we want to know, the input from
And
everybody.
I'm not taking anything from what Ms. Brakefield has said, and I've known her all my life. I remember when she was born.
Hey, if you don't care, come to the podium so she can get it on the recording, just so it's correct and in the minutes right. Sorry. I try to get everybody to come to the podium, just everybody doesn't like to do that.
I'm not a speaker. But as a resident, I don't need a speaker. As a city resident of BlueRidge for 45 years, I've lived on the same street, a dead-end street, that most everyone that lives on there are widow women. I am too, am a widow. I felt comfortable to walk my street, to ride my bicycle on my street. And we all know each other, we help each other. But if this happens, that we get rentals right next to us, I'm not gonna feel comfortable to walk my street anymore. I will feel I have to keep my doors locked. And I've even worried about it to the point, am I gonna have to move? Because I'm not gonna live where I'm in fear. And there's partying goes on, there's loud music goes on. I'm a light sleeper, and I go to bed at 8 o'clock, I'm wrong. But consider that, consider us when you're thinking about this. I know there's money involved in it for people, but consider us too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else that has any input?
Jeff?
I didn't see you sitting over there.
It's a tough thing, it's a double-edged sword all the way around.
Yeah, I didn't realize this was going to be a topic tonight, but I live on College Street, nice.
I think, and it lets us all know we need to be deciding what we're going to do.
I just like to say the ones that are here, you need to get with your neighbors and let them know, and they need to come to the next meeting and speak so we can hear from everybody. Because I've talked to probably 45 people, and most of them that are in residentials now, I want to know who my neighbor is. I don't want a different person there, if not just me personally. Most of the people, you know, especially the older people that are still left in the city, you know, that's who I'm here to serve, you know, first and foremost is the residents. And I feel like that's what we are, you know, I think they should be first. I mean, I know the downtown area brings a lot of money and revenue into it, but, you know, at some point we got to look at, is greed more important than the welfare of our residents? That's just my opinion.
Okay. Any other comments? Harold, you're the only one that didn't have anything to say. Smart man. I always say you're the smartest council member. You keep your mouth shut, right?
Don't get in trouble with that, though. I've been married too long, so.
I'm very thankful. I really appreciate my council. Okay, anything else? We do not need an executive session. Was that the next? Lost my agenda.
Yep.
Okay. We don't need executive session? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay, I think this is the longest council meeting we've had since this group has been there.